Qawli. Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the third session of the guided reading class of the degrees of existence in the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam, written by Professor Syed Muhammad Nakib Al-Attas. Alright, so in the previous session, we have looked at these concepts, alright. We gave a basic definition and some amount of elaboration on the concepts which are important and relevant to this chapter. But, you know, as we go along, we elaborate more deeply or into more detail, all right, the concept itself, all right. So the concept that we studied, all right, that we learned the last session was the concept of existence or being. They are usually translated, all right, in English either as being, all right, or as existence. But the Arabic is wujud, all right. And we found out that, I mean, this is the most important, all right, concept in Islamic metaphysics, all right, being or existence, wujud. And the term wujud comes from the term wajada, which is to find, all right, or to know, all right. So here I mentioned, all right, here in terms of to know, then we are looking at things, all right, in the external world. I mean, externally, or you can say objectively as an object. And when you say to find, is that we are looking, all right, the view or the perspective is from us as the knower, all right. That means to find what as the knower, which is the subject, all right. As you know, there's these two terms, all right, which is subject, which is us, the knower, and the object, the thing out there, all right. So what are we doing here is that we're trying to find, all right, trying to know what is the thing out there. The subject, us, knowing to know what is objective reality, all right, what is the object out there outside of the subject, which is us, all right. So it has, I mean, we are not going to go into that, you know, it has to do with being and consciousness, all right. So here, in relation to the degrees of existence, we are looking at being, all right, as objective reality. And this being has graded existence, levels of existence, all right. So that is in, you know, these are just basic things that we have to know to move on, all right, in the reading. But they are important, basic and important for you to understand this. And then the second thing, the second term, all right, that we looked at in the last class was quiddity, all right. Quiddity, mahia, coming from the term mahia, what is it, all right. The feminine form, of course, because in Arabic there's also the masculine, which is mahua, that means what is it. So quiddity, all right, or mahia, the term mahia in Arabic means the whatness of a thing. Because in your experience of things, all right, you can ask two basic questions about that thing, all right, which you experience or which you perceive. And first is hal huwa, is it? That means, does it exist? All right. And the second question you can ask is, what is it? So mahiyya refers to the second, all right, the second element or the component of a thing. What is it? So when we perceive things, all right, we perceive things as, for example, when you look outside your window, you see trees and sky and birds and animals. So those are the mahiyat, the things. All right. So that is, so in that means, all right, in basic reality, basic reality is that things consists of two components, which is existence and quiddity, the oneness of a thing. All right, because those are the two basic questions. Does it exist, and what does it exist as? All right, so then we look at also between these two terms, all right, concept and reality of existence. So in terms of the what related to the question on does it exist, all right, so when we look at things, all right, that is, we look at things as what they are, all right. That is the what we perceive, all right, and what our mind, all right, abstracts from things, from what we our experience of things. All right, so that is the concept of existence. These things, all right, which are considered as portions. These qualities are portions of existence. Our mind, all right, works on what we experience, and so we consider all the qualities as portions, and then the mind, all right, forms them into a concept. All right, into a concept. And those portions of things, all right, which exist are considered as the concept of existence, because we know these things by our mind. All right, do you understand? Concept is something which is known by the mind. So these are concepts of existence, these portions of existence, which are basically made up of the qualities, which answers our questions. What are they? They exist. What do they exist as? All right, they are the qualities. And so our mind abstracts all these things and form a concept. All right, and that concept is the concept of existence. Okay, but for this article, okay, we are more concerned, all right, with the reality of existence. The concept of existence is mafhum al-wujud. All right, concept is mafhum, what is known, what is understood. All right, and the reality of existence is hakikatul wujud, reality. All right, or the truth. Usually al-haq, all right, is translated as both real and true. Why? As we mentioned, what is real is objective reality. All right, what is true as is in relation to the subject knowing the reality of the thing, which is therefore true. Okay, it's true because it is real out there. So our mind considers it to be the truth. That's why, all right, in our in Islamic philosophy, Islamic metaphysics, or in our tradition, is intellectual tradition, the term al-haq usually is translated as both reality, all right, real, al-haq, the real, and the true. Hakikat, all right, hakikah is reality and truth. All right, so depending on what is it that you are focusing on. Okay, so according to Prof. Al-Attas here, all right, and I just want to remind again, as he mentioned, we mentioned the pages where he referred to that he says this is the Islamic metaphysics, all right, meaning that this is the authentic, the true and real, all right, you can say presentation or system, all right, of reality, of the nature of reality. And where are his sources? All right, basically they, of course, originating from the Quran. All right, but there is that intellectual tradition made up of the scholars, all right, from the three different schools which Prof. Al-Attas took from, all right, where basically that forms his, you can say, the sanad or the isnad, all right, of this Islamic metaphysics which he is presenting, all right, which he took from the earliest Al-Junayd, all right, and then Kushairi, and then of course into Al-Ghazali, Ibn Surawardi first, and then Al-Ghazali first, then Surawardi, and then Ibn Arabi, all right, and then Ibn Arabi's commentators like Kunyawi, Jami, Jili, Al-Jili, all right, and then Mullah Sadruddin Shirazi. You can check the previous first class, I think we looked at the sanad, and also we located the page numbers. So basically, so this is his presentation, and of course the theologians or the mutakallimun, Taftazani, all right, the Shara al-Aqaid by Taftazani, all right. So so these are basically the sources, but here in this class, since we are reading this specific text, we will just mention what Prof. Al-Attas wrote or said, right? So that is something which I needed to qualify also. So so Prof. Al-Attas say what, because when we talk about the metaphysics as the science of the ultimate reality, here we have come across the word also, okay, and the concept of reality basically refers to that, all right, here in terms of God, all right, only can we can only refer to the term hakikatul wujud in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all right. So we just maintain that level of understanding, and then as you know we read, it will be unfolded to us, all right, about the how there is there's the stage of manifestation. Okay, so now where we stopped that day was we said that okay, page 269, right?
Yes, okay. We read until La Bishar.
Yes, and that's the other point. All right, the reality of existence is the reality, all right, of existence itself. It's not a concept. That means it really exists, and that reality of existence we can only refer to Allah Taala, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But that, all right, that reality has many degrees of existence. Okay, so then he mentioned, all right, that in relation to the to existence, all right, in the sense that, all right, at the first level, that at the first level, okay, existence, okay, you 268, all right, we, you know, for the purpose of continuity, existence as reality, all right, the last paragraph of 268, all right, existence as reality and not as concept is the very essence of the ultimate reality. This ultimate reality is Allah. considered in his very essence, he is known only to himself. For considered as he is in himself, he is unconditionally transcendent. All right, so here unconditionally transcendent meaning there are no conditions to his transcendence. All right, he's not qualified by any conditions. So he's not conditioned by conditions. All right, so he is himself, he is unconditionally transcendent. Tanzi, transcendence is tanzi. But unconditionally transcendent, all right, by unconditionally transcendent, we wish to convey the meaning that he is in such degree of utmost isolation, meaning he's alone, nothing is with him. Neither condition by unrelatedness to anything. Basically, you can see it's not related to anything, but meaning the condition of unrelatedness to anything. All right, which is bishart la shay. All right, the conditional, the unconditionally of his unconditioned. All right, is there are three terms that we have to know here. All right, then bishart la shay. Then the second conditionality is no condition by being indeterminate, in the sense of being unrestricted by unrelatedness to anything. That means he's free to engage in individual things. This is the second, all right, you would say condition, la bishart shay. All right, so we can only say that the ultimate reality considered in his very essence is not conditioned by any condition whatever. All right, it's not conditioned by any condition whatever. La bishar, no condition. Not conditioned by any condition whatever. So this means that the reality of existence at the level of ultimate reality cannot even be considered as being absolute, mutlak. For existence at that level is above being qualified by absoluteness. All right, so he cannot technically, all right, as being absolute, because at that level, because at this level of ultimate reality, all right, he's unconditioned by anything. And therefore is unconditioned by the condition of absoluteness. So therefore, he is beyond absoluteness. So in a sense, then you cannot say he is absolute, because he is beyond being absolute. All right. So for existence, at that level, it's above being qualified by absoluteness, itlaq, by virtue of the fact that such qualification is already a condition. When you say absoluteness, that's a condition. So he's beyond any condition, so therefore he is beyond absoluteness. All right, to a certain disposition, and is as such a kind of restriction, a limitedness, takkid, among the states of being limited, that is mentally posited in the various degrees of intelligible and sensible existence. All right, you simply put, sensible are the things which your senses can sense, all right, or your senses can perceive. Those are sensible things, like all these things around us, they are sensible. Intelligible would be the things, all right, which are known by the mind, all right, like concepts, abstract concepts, universals. They are intelligible things, all right, because they are in the mind. The mind perceives them not through the senses, All right, we know of them not through the senses. Like this bottle, I know it because I can see it. All right, this bottle, I can see it, I can hold it, I can touch it. All right, I can smell it. But intelligible things, all right, we know through our intelligence or intellect, all right, or the imaginative faculty. In the sense, all right, like for example, what is an intelligible thing would be like, for example, uh, animal. Animal is a concept, all right? Or man is a concept. So the concept is, how do you know? Concepts is through definitions. So animal, so for example, man, all right? We define it, all right, because we cannot know it by the senses. All right, so we define it by, so we have to define it to know it, which is definition. All right, al-had. So therefore, man is our mind, all right, like Prof here mentioned, categorize and classify, all right, and therefore it is a rational animal. Because in definition, when you want to know about an intelligible thing, all right, we say we have to define the thing, right? And definition, all right, in Islamic philosophy, all right, is divided into two. First, genus, jins, all right, in Arabic, genus, which is the bigger classification, bigger group of things. So here in rational animal, man as rational animal, genus is the animal, the higher one, all right, the living things. And rational, okay, meaning here, man is the species, of course, the thing that thing which we want to know. So man will be in this genus of higher one or animals, all right, or animal as a genus. There are many, all right, many classes, many types, all right, of animals. So now, what is the difference, all right, between man in the genus of animal with, for example, a lion? Okay, so when it comes to definition, we take the most fundamental or the most significant element. All right, of course, lion being four-legged, you know, warm-blooded, which we also share. So we take the thing which differentiates man with lion. So there are many common things, all right, between man and a lion, but there's something which lion and, for that matter, other animals, all right, like for example, you can say reptiles, all right, another group of in the genus of hayawan. Okay, so the thing is, what differentiates man from all the other classes, all right, or the other groups, is rationality, nutq. That's why then the philosophers, all right, basically this, I think it originated from Aristotle, all right, in terms of the philosophical definition, okay, of man as being a rational animal. So that means the lion or any other animals, all right, or under the genus of animal hayawan, all right, does not share in rationality with man. So therefore, a definition is made up of genus, the definition of a species now, all right, does not share, all right, this is, that means it's made up, sorry, of genus and difference. Then you get the definition. All right, difference, specific difference. All right, fasl, the difference of a thing. So therefore, that's why we get the definition of man as rational, that difference, all right, from other groups of animals. But the genus, it is the same, all right, as other animals. But what is the difference from other animals is rationality. So that's the definition. So intelligible beings, for example, like we say concept, then you will say, is an animal a sensible thing or object? No, what is a sensible and thing is a specific or a particular or an individual. Particular or individual, if you want to say man, Kubaib is a particular man. Me, insan, all right, not rajul, insan, human, me. And, and many others. Those are specific individuals. Ali, Zaid, Chong, okay, Lim. Those are specific or individual men. Concept of man is an intelligible being. It's a concept. All right, it is known by the mind. All right, there's a question here. Okay, Faiza. All right. My question is God defined conceptually for man? If you are asked the question, what is God or who is God? If the premise is that the reality is not a concept, but is the existence. All right. So when you say that you can know God, all right, conceptually, you can say, for example, like what we study, all right, in, for example, you are my student in Islamic philosophy last semester. What were we studying? We were studying about the concept of God, right? That means we were studying, all right, Ibn Sina's concept of God. And Ibn Sina's concept of God, all right, he says God is the necessary being, wajibul wujud. All right, and he says that the wajibul wujud means that his existence is wajib, is necessary. And his essence is identical to his existence. Because his essence or his quiddity, you can say, is existence itself. Right? And then we studied all the different types of being which Ibn Sina, all right, classified. He says, God is necessary being. Everything else other than God is contingent being. Mungkin al-wujud. They can exist. They have equal possibility of existing and not existing. All right? They exist because wajibul wujud bestows, or you can say existentiate. All right? Give existence to the quiddity. So what are those? Those are concepts, right? Those are concepts by which we know God. And for example, in Kalam, what were we studying? We were studying about the attributes of God and the essence of God, where we looked at the different schools of thought, say the existence of God, or God has no essence. God has no attributes or sifat, right? Remember the Mu'tazila, they stripped down Allah's sifat to his essence, because they say for you to say that there are many sifat, all right, this is also relevant, all right, because you have to understand also, that's why I am explaining also this concept. It does help in understanding, all right, because this is also Islamic metaphysics. So they go into this argument. Remember the Ash'arite and the Mu'tazila saying that you know, the Ash'arites said that the attributes are his essence, but not identical to his essence. But the Mu'tazila say they're nothing but his essence because they do not want to admit multiple realities. So what are all these? These are conceptions. For example, the Mu'tazila conception of God, the Ash'arite conception of God, what they conceive, all right? But that's not the reality. These are concepts we can know, and it brings us a certain amount of knowledge, all right? What is the meaning of, for example, who is God? But what is more significant and more important and real, because we want to know the truth and reality of things, which in Islam, which Allah says is possible for us to achieve. Very different from Kant or other Western philosophers saying that, or David or Hume, a skeptic, this knowledge is not attainable. It's not possible. Like Kant said, these are noumena. We do not know things as they are in themselves, referring to those things beyond phenomena, which is all these things in the sensible and physical world. But in Islam, all right, we can know. And here, what's important, of course, everybody, if they study, then they understand the concept of God. But what we want to know is the reality or the truth of God. And that cannot be known by the mind. That's what Prof here said. It only in relation to this reality of existence. It refers to God alone. So all the other things are conceptual. So we know things as conceptual. All right, so we know things as they are in their whatness. But do we know things as they are, as they exist? Later we will see. All right, these are all, whatever is in the world exist, manifestations of being, the manifestations. And so that is the reality and truth of being, which, if you want to use a religious term, God, Allah. But of course, philosophers, they will use their philosophical terms, or in metaphysics, they will just say being, right? So therefore, it can be common to all traditions, or you can understand if you are studying another tradition, or you can, or if you are studying another belief system. All right, but in relation to Islam, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so we are veiled from knowing. All right, you will come across all this. I'm just to answer your question, also to give you some windows for understanding this whole thing before we reach, before, as we go along, I mean. So we want to know that we want to be able, all right, to experience that reality, which the mind cannot. All right, because that's the reality. So, because there is the level of manifestation. So you have sort of a jump, all right, here, where we will explain this hidden treasure. So there are degrees of manifestation which we are able, all right, to have knowledge of, all right, or here knowledge, here there's knowledge by presence, not only by akal, all right, rational knowledge, all right. So here, in the sense of the experience, all right, or the intuition, there are many terms in our Islamic tradition for this type of knowledge which bypass ratiocination, meaning mental knowledge. All right, so we have intuition, we have dhawq, tasting, we have mushahada, witnessing, we have mukashafa, unveiling. So now, so what are we really knowing? We only know the quantities, the things. And they are the veils, basically, for us to know the reality, the existence in themselves. That is what we are searching, seeking for. But yet, all right, we can know about this, all right, here because here as Prof says, it's also through the mind that we know about this, but the experience of that reality. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. For the time being, that would be enough, I think, for you to understand as we move along, okay, in terms of the concept of existence. All right, so now so this we continue, all right, page 269. In view of this, the nature of the ultimate reality as not conditioned by any condition whatever is, strictly speaking, not conditioned even by transcendence, because there's no condition. Not conditioned by transcendence, not conditioned by absoluteness. La bishart shay. La bishart. All right? Not conditioned by any condition whatsoever. La bishart shay. Okay? And can never be accessible, all right, to our knowledge and cognition. All right, here just now I would like to mention, I said knowledge by presence. So in a sense, technically we can say we can know, all right, knowledge by bil hudur, presence, or presential knowledge, all right. But here Prof says to in our knowledge and cognition, meaning mentally, all right, and remains eternally unknown and unknowable except to himself. All right, so at this level, totally unknowable. Okay, totally unknowable and remains eternally unknown and unknowable except to himself only. We have no means. We have no means to know him at this level. All right, because this is the level where is the that, which is the essence. All right, we studied, all right, in terms of trying to know God conceptually. Remember, we classified that, sifat. All right, so here, and we said we cannot know his essence. Remember, that's conceptually, and here is also conceptually, but in the sense that there is to know the reality of God. All right, here we know it through conception, in the sense that at this level, all right, that Allah is unknowable except to himself. We refer to this first and highest degree of existence as the self-concealing aspect. All right, the hidden, concealing, self-concealing aspect of the ultimate reality. All right, so if I were you, I would write first degree and then how Prof, all right, describe or define that level. Okay, later on, he will use even metaphors, not philosophical terms. Okay, so here, as his inmost self, and so self-concealing, hidden aspect of the ultimate reality as his inmost self and very essence. That. Okay, the term is that. Alluded to in the sacred tradition as the dark mist, all right, al-ama, and the hidden treasure, kanz mahfi. All right, here I will recite the tradition. All right, it's a hadith could see, okay, because here I will follow the readings, the writing of Prof, and then we continue. Okay, he says page 270. But, all right, the first line, but the reality of existence. No, you're right. Page 270, that first line. I'm just continuing. But the reality of existence, by virtue of being what it is that is by being itself manifest and bringing everything else into manifestation, must be posited, all right, as possessing degrees of self-manifestation. All right, so it's coming very close, all right, to the picture, to the whole picture. But of course, there are 6 degrees, all right, of existence. So by virtue of being what it is, what is it? Existence, being, it exists. That's what it means. That is, by being what it is, that is by being itself, all right, manifest and bringing everything else into manifestation, must be posited as possessing degrees, all right, because it is being, therefore it exists, and by its nature, it has to manifest. Then if it doesn't manifest, all right, here, then it is non-existence. Yes, here's a very tricky part here. Because when we are at the highest level of non-condition, of that it is conditioned by no conditions whatsoever, even absoluteness, all right, or transcendence, okay, or here, yes, absolute. It is also, you can say, if it is not conditioned by anything at all, therefore, it is also not this place here, but Prof did explain further on, all right, or in the other chapter, all right, because I forget sometimes exactly where he writes that, all right, so it's also not conditioned by being, by existence, all right. This is the tricky part, because the condition of, because existence is also a condition, all right, and therefore it's not conditioned by existence in the sense, all right, of conceptual existence, because when our experience of things in the universe, all right, is existence, things which exist. That is a qualification or a condition. But God at this highest level, or even, we cannot even use the term highest, because it is beyond any condition. So highest, that means you are restricting the level, which is highest, which is a restriction, a takhid. Okay, God at this level, okay, we'll say ultimate reality, is beyond existence, because all other things in this universe are qualified by existence. So God, Allah, is beyond the qualification of existence itself. That's why in Ibn Sina, all right, he talks about beyond being. That's why they say, all right, this is an aside here, Islamic metaphysics, they say that there's, in terms of ontology, okay, when you say this is Islamic ontology, that's why it's better we say Islamic metaphysics. But of course, we do use the term ontology, because ontology is the science of being, right? Ontology, coming from the Greek term, the Greek branch, all right, of philosophy. But if we, as we want to study, we want to know God, all right, and this God, all right, is beyond existence, then it goes beyond ontology even. Right? Because ontology is the science of being. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his essence, the al-ama, the kanz mafi, all right, is beyond existence, is beyond being. That's why the term beyond being, and there's also the term non-being. All right, the translation, they use non-being, all right, because it is beyond the category of being. So what is beyond the category of being? Beyond being and also non-being. Non-being, in the sense that we cannot classify the ultimate reality in relation to being. In the sense, if you look, because there's the concept of existence of being, right? But if Allah is beyond this, is beyond being, therefore, he's beyond this concept of existence. And which also relates to the point that he is reality of existence, or the reality of being. Okay? All right, do you understand? Okay, so philosophy can capture, all right, with terms. If you say that, you know, this is another aside, Rumi says, all right, philosophy is limited to a certain extent, all right, is the wooden leg of, I'm not mistaken, he says, is wooden leg of Sufism, in the sense that it cannot, but I believe that even in using terms and trying to explain, all right, conceptually, we can arrive at it. But of course, because the Sufis emphasize knowing God, all right, experientially, so for them, all these concepts are not so useful. Even some even say useless. But there, you know, there are those who are very, you know, there is the school of thought, all right, made up of philosophers, okay, all right, who would go, this is a method of knowledge. All right, for the Sufis, they might say, oh, that's why they use metaphors, majaz. But the philosophers, they want to use their philosophical terms. And you can see, you can push to the furthest extent. But of course, conceptually, all right? But so you can push to the furthest extent, all right, your mind, your intellect to know God. It's the experience, all right, that finally, all right, we are seeking. In this world, of course, in the next world, you know, some scholars, all right, believe that ru'yatullah, believe in it, all right, and of course the Asharite believe in the next world. Okay, so, but of course the philosophers, the Urafa, all right, the Hukama, and the Sufis, or, you know, you would put them together as those who knows, and all right, would say that you can experience that in this world, in the sense of experiencing. And you read some of these Urafa or Kama have mentioned about their experience, the experience of wujud. Okay, so so this is okay, to explain what is this self-manifestation. Okay, the nature must be posited, means put forward, posited, all right, expounded or explained as possessing degrees of self-manifesting. So there is, it exists, all right, but therefore degrees, in degrees, because, all right, at the highest level, it's unknowable. Only he knows in himself. That is the that, right? So that one is totally unmanifested. Only he knows himself, in himself, by himself. So totally unmanifested. But, all right, because he is existence, therefore there must be self-manifestation. All right, at the level of existence, because everything else exists. All the lower levels exist, right? The animals, the sky, the planets, whatever, they exist. Where do they get their existence? That's the question. So the nature is existence. So therefore, all right, if there's only one being, therefore all others are manifestations. Okay? Manifestations. If not, we don't exist. I think I sort of touched on it a bit, because I say, what's the difference between quiddity and existence? All right, there are two separate components, because there is nothing in quiddity, nothing. For example, this bottleness, right? It being a bottle. But if you look at it conceptually, there's nothing in the concept of bottle where you can, what's the term? Attribute existence to it. It is not a concomitant, lazim or mukawim, I think. All right, it is not a concomitant. The bottleness, it being a bottle, existence is not a concomitant of bottleness, in the sense that, well, you can conceptualize a bottle, but does it exist or not? We don't know. That's what it means. All right, it is not a concomitant, or is, you cannot existence does not come into the concept of bottle. You can talk about a tree, you can talk about many things of the qualities of things, but existence is not attributed to it in the sense that it is inherent in the thing itself. A bottle, can you say, well, existence is part of its element or component? No, it is not. That's why the philosophers say, all right, that existence comes from the outside. All right. All right, in the sense that it comes from outside to the quiddity and gives it existence. So therefore, that's why Sina said there are two distinct components. Doesn't mean that a bottle, you can attribute existence to it. No. You can just define what it is, but existence is not part of it. Existence is not part of quiddity. All right? Okay, understood. Maybe slowly. Okay? So, that's why it's the nature of existence to manifest. If you believe that being is one, the concept of, the most important, right, concept of Islam. Kul huwallahu ahad. Okay? So otherwise, nothing would ever be manifested as existing. That's what he means. And moreover, its degree of self-concealment also would never be known to be unknowable. So therefore, we will never know if we never existed. if we never existed, or if there was no self-manifestation of this being. And we would, if we didn't exist, all right, if there was no self-manifestation, then can we even know, all right, that there is this degree of hiddenness or self-concealment? We wouldn't know. In fact, we wouldn't know anything. We don't exist. All right? And we don't know God really. Because, all right, here he says, and moreover, its degree, we don't know that there is this degree of self-concealment even. All right? Also would never be known to be unknowable, and we don't even know it is unknowable. All right, this is very important because a lot of people do not, you know, people who do not believe in this, actually there's no question of not believing in this Islamic metaphysics, because truth and reality of things, unless, all right, this is, like Prof say, is the vision, all right, of Islam, or the worldview of Islam. And the worldview must start with metaphysics. You cannot start with other concepts. You cannot say concept of knowledge, concept of freedom, concept of whatever, ethics, without grounding all these other concepts in the Islamic worldview on metaphysics or being, wujud. All right, so this is why it's important in the sense that people who do not agree about this self-manifestation and all that, so try to ask them, what do you mean by Allah is one? What's the concept of Tawheed? Then what are we? All right. So anyway, we won't go into this kind of polemical questions, which issues which, you know, there are disagreements about this, you would say, picture, all right, not system, because it's not really systematic. All right. As you can see later, all right, that's why the term tashkik. Oh, tashkik is, yeah, analogical gradation, which is systematic, they call it. But anyway, there's a matter of preference in terms of the translation. So, okay, here, there is an aspect of it that includes, okay. So, thus, in spite of its utter concealment, all right, utter concealment, total concealment, all right, you know, Prof is very, you know, in terms of language, all right, because, you know, he uses a lot of semantic analysis, and of course in terms of in English also, all right, he's very careful, or he's very deliberate, and you know, so that's why we are having this text, albeit in English, because he writes in English, all right. So I mean this text, so he says utter concealment, utter, total. Even the word total is a restriction, right? When you say total. So anyway, that's why he says utter, not total, utter. Okay, utter concealment. There is an aspect of it that inclines towards self-manifestation. All right. So when we said, alluding to the sacred tradition, I was a hidden treasure. All right. Kuntu kanzan mahfiyah. And I love to be known. Fa'ahbabtu an uraf. So I created the creation. Fa'ahlak halka likai uraf. Fa'ahlaktu. Fa'ahlaktul halka likai uraf. All right. So I created the creation that I might be known. So this is the level. Okay. And this is Hadith Qudsi. I was a hidden treasure and I loved to be known. He uses the word ahbabtu, meaning, and I loved to be known. So I created the creation, Hulk, that I might be known. That the hidden treasure, all right, this kanzan, all right, this kanz mafi, refers to the self-concealing aspect of the ultimate reality. You are a hidden treasure. Allah is the hidden treasure. Refers to the self-concealing aspect, the ultimate reality. The loving to be known already implies a disposition. Disposition meaning an inclination. Okay? Pointing towards his self-revealing aspect. All right? So this is important in the sense that first, he's a hidden treasure. So if a hidden treasure is just lying there. If we look at it, we can give a physical or sensible analogy to it. All right, here hidden, well, in the sense, if for example, it's hidden in the forest, it's just lying there, right? But there's this, all right, unknowable, nobody knows, all right? But this refers to the self-concealing aspect. The loving to be known, all right, the loving to be known already implies a disposition pointing towards his self-revealing aspect. He wants to be known. That means he loves to be known. That is already the disposition, the inclination for manifestation. In the sense that with manifestation, then he is known. And here, Prof says in this aspect, he is already swayed, as it were by love. Hub, ahbabtu, I loved. Hub, which is the principle of ontological movement that becomes manifest in creation. So what's the whole basis of creation? Love. All right, and we will see later that's why the term, if I'm not mistaken, in Arabic use nafas ar-Rahman, the breath of the merciful, mercy. All right, which is, and love. Okay, so the principle of ontological movement, all right, is hub, love. I think the first class I mentioned about the implications and all that. All right, we won't go into that again, but just remember, all right, the principle of creation is love, which is the principle of ontological movement. That means meaning existentiating things, making things exist, that becomes manifest in creation. So creation being the verification, tahqiq, of what is at once true and real. I think I have explained this earlier. Is the existentiating act, all right? The ijad, coming from the term wajada, ijad, existentiate act of the self-manifesting aspect of the ultimate reality. So basically, this is creation. Islamic metaphysics, what do you mean by creation? Verification of what is at once true and real. Verified. The thing is verified. As true, remember I said objective reality, real and true in the sense that there is correspondence in what is real out there and what we know in our mind. That's why they say ittihad. Okay, the identification. Sometimes they use union, all right, of the knower and the known. And that is what produces knowledge. So here he says the creation is the verification, the tahqiq. All right. And real haq comes from, tahqiq comes from haq. All right. So therefore, verification at once true and real is the existentiating act of the self-manifesting aspect of the ultimate reality. All right, self-manifesting act of that ultimate reality, which we says is unknowable. Only he knows himself in himself, the that, the al-ama, the kanz mahfi, and the aspect of being as being unconditioned by any conditions. All right. And in this creative aspect, he is called by the name signifying at once the truth and the real. All right. So at this aspect, where he is inclined to manifest himself. All right. Because he loves to be known. All right. And so therefore this self-manifestation, all right, is the movement from, that's why we say from the level of ultimate reality, or you can say from non-being or beyond being to being or existence. Okay. And in this creative aspect, he is called by the name signifying at once the truth and the real al-haq. All right. Oh, okay. Here, Prof mentioned in footnote 296, right? There are many references in the Quran. So those who, Islamic metaphysics is based on the Quran. But of course, how do these scholars, all right, the mutakalimun, the hukama, or the falasifa, or the Sufis, how was that? It's not, all right, that chain of transmission of these sciences or discipline come about. All right, basically, they are interpreting the verses of the Quran. Interpretation. All right, tafsir or ta'wil. Okay. So, but the basis, of course, is from the Quran itself. And here Prof says that the act is accomplished by the truth, bil haq. See, for example, Surah Al-An'am and Ibrahim. All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think the Surah Al-An, but the ayah just to show you to you, wa huwa alladhi khalaqas samawati wal ard bil haqq wa yawma yaqulu kun fayakun qawluhul haqq. All right, here, and it is he who created the heavens and earth in truth. So this is the scholars' understanding of what this verse means, that, all right, and it is he, وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ, and it is he who created the heavens and earth in truth, bil haq. And what they understand, creation, all right, because when Allah says, all right, خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْض, he created the heavens and the earth. Bil haq, here is the verification, right? The tahqiq of the creation. The tahqiq, creation is tahqiq. Okay, here, principle of ontological movement that becomes manifest in creation, creation being the verification, bil haq, tahqiq of what is at once true and real, al-haq, all right, is the existentiating act of the self-manifesting aspect of the ultimate reality. And in this creative aspect, he is called by the name signifying at once the truth and the real. So this is basically, and you can say, all right, an interpretation of one of the verses. According to Prof, there are a few verses also, I mean others, Surah Ibrahim. Okay. So at this degree of existence or level, this Allah is referred to as Al-Haq, because it's already inclined to self-manifesting, and which basically is creation. He created the heavens and the earth, all right, and which is being the verification. Creation is the verification of what is real and true. Okay. Let's see. All right. Then Surah Ibrahim. All right. Ayah 19. Alam tara anna Allah halakas samawati wal ard bil haq. Arda bil haq. In yasha yuthibkum wa ya'ti bihalkin jadi. Why they make the font so small? Okay. Have you not seen that Allah created the heavens and the earth in truth? So when we read, we have read these verses, but we never fully understand, all right, what it means. Here, there's a tafsir of this verse. You would say a metaphysical tafsir of this verse. What does, have you not seen that Allah created the heavens and the earth in truth? What does that mean? If he wills, he can do away with you and produce a new creation. All right, we'll come into this Al-Halqul Jadid even. So, all right, just a little bit of a side to contextualize things. All right, because, you know, to contextualize, all right, you are studying Islamic metaphysics here. Now, you know, we are, you know, what do you say, surrounded by, or not surrounded, all right, there are, all right, conflicting, all right, or you would say different, all right, belief systems or ideologies that are prevalent, you know, on the contemporary world. For example, postmodernism. Okay, what is their basic ideology in terms of metaphysics? Of course, they don't believe in metaphysics. They don't believe in meta-narratives. All right, those who take the class Islam and modern ideologies. All right, what do they mean by meta-narratives? So meta-narratives are narratives which have a holistic, comprehensive, or you would say fundamentally, they don't believe in metaphysics. You know, a worldview which is all encompassing, or you would say of a supreme being, okay, of the world created by a supreme being, this postmodernism, all right, meta-narrative as something which is closed and complete in itself, all right, explaining things. So, What is their position? We studied, right? Their position is that, okay, they say that they don't believe in there is truth. There's no truth. There is no one absolute truth. So people say, why are you against postmodernism? Is it because of, you're saying that, well, maybe perhaps of the lifestyle or the, economic system or the social system or the political system or the epistemological system? All right. We always, when we compare, we have to go back, all right, to the metaphysics, is because we say, well, they don't believe in metaphysics. That means they don't believe, all right, everything can be explained in the physical sense or sensible sense, all right? Or even if, for example, they, like the naturalists, all right, they believe in a certain amount of, in the sense, or like the dominant factor here is nature, right? But they don't believe in this, in God. All right, and therefore they don't believe. Why don't they believe in God? Because they don't believe in this creation, this level of creation where there is a being who manifests and created, all right, things in this world, all right, which is a process of verification of his truth and reality. So that's why they say there's no truth. Nothing is real. They say everything is subjective, right? Different schools of postmodernism, but that's the fundamental position. And there's no absolute truth. There's no one truth. Your truth is as good as the one next to you. If that is what is truth for you, then that is the truth. You see, but of course their argument is they don't believe in absolute truth, but they do say that, in a sense, when there is subjective, you say that that is the truth for you, they are also putting absoluteness to your position of truth. All right, they are also full of contradictions. All right, postmodernism. So here, there's no truth. Your truth is as good as mine. Basically, if you don't believe in God, then that's your reality. Somebody else believes in God. Well, they would say, well, that's their belief, but prove us, whether there's a God or not to us. Because our worldview is there's no one absolute truth and reality. So when we want to argue against all this belief system, we are just not being, people will say we are just being extremists, or we are being how would you say, intolerant, or they will say we are not open-minded or not liberal. All right, so you have to prove it's not that. It's not that. We are looking at the metaphysics of things, the foundation of things, which form your worldview, my worldview. All right, so that's why many people, all right, so you see, they are very open to things if it doesn't affect their worldview. Right, as long as they can maintain their worldview. So don't impose on me, for example, that there are no meta-narratives. But yet, all right, we can argue about this, we can dialogue about this, the reason why we have to have knowledge. We have knowledge of our worldview, all right, which the basis of which is the metaphysics, all right. And then we must have knowledge of that so that we can discuss. People will say there's nothing to discuss. There are, of course, people who say, well, can we sit on the same table? All right, because there's nothing to discuss really. You don't believe in God, I believe in God. Well, I don't think, there are verses in the Quran where Allah says He created, humankind, many groups and races, so that lita'araf, so that they may know each other, and then they can compete in goodness, right? So, you like black, go ahead. I mean, you are not going to say people who like black are, ugly people or bad people, are you? All right. So that's the importance of knowledge, so that we may know one another. All right. In the sense that, so now we can know, what drives this postmodernist, or what drives this atheists to be atheists, what drives agnostics to be agnostics. All right, of course. And then if you want to go beyond that, all right, in the sense of knowledge, and then there are those who believe they can contribute, all right, to da'wah or whatever, all right, to instruction, to transmission of knowledge, to, well, there is such a thing as enlightenment, in the sense that then there will be an Islamic movement of, having knowledge of what is reality. And basically, for example, in relation to, all the scholars coming up with their epistemological principles, like Tawhidic epistemology or Ummatic excellence, or, or before that, Wasatiyah, all this, what are they? All right, because perhaps, all right, like our scholars like, for example, Ibn Rushd and Al-Ghazali did say, all right, we must, or Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh, who says, basically, he says that you must come to the level of the people who are your audience. So if you want to talk perhaps about this metaphysics, might not be, practical. All right. So you have to go and explain the implications, all right, or the ramifications, or the practical aspects. But when you explain the practical aspects, you have to go, all right, to the metaphysical aspect, but to the extent that the people have a working knowledge of it. All right. And so here, but we want to go deeper. All right. We want to go deeper. And so therefore, that's why we are reading, all right, and trying to understand the text of this level of being. Okay, so I already, in terms of making, contextualizing in relation to, what's the purpose, of studying, okay, this text. And is it like we are in isolation? We don't mix around because we think that we have the truth. We know those people do not know. They are ignorant. No. All right. That's not the case at all. So anyway, we continue from the brief explanation above. All right. Continue page 271. The first line of the page 271. All right. I'm not jumping. I'm reading line by line because I think this is important. We cannot jump. There'll be gaps and then we lose track. From the brief explanation above, and as confirmed by sacred revelation, the Quran. All right. And of course, just now the Hadith Qudsi, all right, meaning the Hadith, God speaks by the tongue of the Prophet, all right. It becomes evident that the ultimate reality has two aspects. The inward, all right, the batin, all right. Huwa al-zahir wal-batin. Huwa al-awwal wal-akhir. All right, here, the inward interior, self-concealing aspect. So al-batin, usually people say the inward, but actually it's also the interior. Inward, interior, inside, but it is also self-concealing, hidden. aspect, al-batin, in which not even a trace of the initial stirring of any internal articulation is discernible from the point of view of human cognition, even though it is the very ground of being. So that's the highest level. That's the level of the ultimate reality, right? The that, the al-ama, right? In the sense that not even a trace of the initial stirring. Well, I like that term, stirring, because stirring is like, when you say there's stirring, you hear stirrings, like faint movements or the beginning indication of movement. That's what it means. All right. Here, initial stirring of any internal articulation. Internal articulation, there's even movement in you. In the sense, all right, in Allah Ta'ala, that level, there's not even a trace of the inner stirring of any internal articulation. That's why it's unknowable. Only He knows, right? It's discernible. That means it's known, discern, or notice, or from the point of view of human cognition, even though it is the very ground of being. See that? It's the very ground of being, to exist, to manifest, and to, of course, He is the ground of being with the capital B here. Yes, Prof used capital B, meaning referring to Allah. Because being with a small b, right? I'm going to make things complicated. In the translation into English, many scholars, big B, capital B is God. Small b is the concept of existence. It could include God as a concept, but when you say being, capital B, it's God only. So, what is the ground of being? The fact of what do you mean by being in the first place? To exist, to be. Wujud. It's the ground of being. All right, even though it's the very ground of being. But yet, human beings, all right, cannot have cognition of that. Okay, all right, Hubayb? Okay. Even though it's the very ground of being, but we do not know. We cannot know. It has to do with the reality, all right, of being here and the outward. So first aspect, the batin. The second aspect, all right, is the outward, which is the zahir, in which the inclination towards self-manifestation, meant to manifest yourself, means to show. And you say manifestation is to manifest, is to show. Like they say, show your feelings. You're angry inside and there are stirrings, all right, of anger, but you don't manifest your anger, you just keep quiet. But it's already inside, right? Other people, do they know? Okay, maybe you shouldn't use anger, but love, yes, love. You love somebody, all right? It's inside your heart. You don't show it, so nobody knows that you love the person himself or herself whom you love. Do not know, because you don't manifest, you don't show your love. It's all inside the love. All right? So that's what you mean by manifest. To make zahir, to make outward what is inward. All right? Towards self is initiated by the consciousness of desiring or loving to be known. All right? So that's the second aspect, the zahir. The batin missed, unknowable. All right, cannot know. But that is the batin. The zahir, all right, two aspects, right, to this, in which the inclination towards self-manifestation is initiated by the consciousness of desiring or loving to be known. The wanting to be known, desiring, or you would say loving to be known. So that is the zahir. Because why is the zahir? In the sense there's already the stirring, Prof says. All right, of any internal articulation. You know, when there's articulation, when there is stillness. All right, that the first level is the level of stillness. Still. Nothing. Stillness. You cannot say nothing because it's the ground of being. All right. So both this of desiring or loving to be known, both these aspects are harmonized within the ultimate reality. All right. So there's the two aspects, the batin and the zahir. All right. They are harmonized. That's why the verse, وَهُوَ الظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ al-awal wal-akhir. Okay. Harmonized within the ultimate reality, still at the level of ultimate reality, whose inwardness is identical with his outwardness. Is identical. For us, it's not identical. Our inward is inside. All right, you can say our soul, you would say an-nafs, al-qalb, ar-ruh, you would say that is our batin, the batin or the hidden aspect of the human being. But the batin, all right, is the jisim, our parts, our limbs, our organs. Okay, but so there are two in relation, what is inside and what is outside. But in relation to God at this level, all right, he is both. That's why he is simultaneously both. He is at once. I think better to use the word at once. Batin, al-batin wa zahir, at once. Okay, identical with our existence here. As we have already said, is existence in the first degree. All right, is existence in the first degree, having two aspects which correspond to the interior self-concealing dark mist of sacred tradition, sometimes also referred to as the very essence itself. All right, if I were you, I write, what are the terms? Okay, because then you will not forget. All right, because sometimes we think, oh, I have a good memory or a long memory. All right, well, perhaps at your age you may still have good memory, but not at my age. That's why, I used to have a boss. All right, and he was telling me things, what he wants to be mentioned at the meeting. Then I was young at that time and think that, oh, I want to impress my boss and say, I don't need to write notes. All right. I think unconsciously, not consciously, consciously, I forgot to bring a pencil. All right. And a notebook. So then he told me off and he was telling me, then I just nodded, oh, okay, all right, this 1, 2, 3. And then he told me a short pencil is better than a long memory. All right, he told me. So I had to borrow a pencil from his secretary. Okay, I think I'll never forget that remark which he made. All right, and it has greater significance as you grow older. Whatever is always right. Okay, nowadays, of course, nowadays students don't take notes anymore. because they have PowerPoint and all those. Okay, so anyway, so right at which level, because there are, you know, the ultimate reality, okay, here are that which is the very essence itself of the ultimate reality, characterized by an utterly absolute oneness, which is ahadiyah mutlaqah. All right, absolute oneness. And the exterior self-revealing hidden treasure of the same tradition, all right, ahadiyah, which is predisposed towards self-manifestation in the realm of the unseen, and which, even though it is still considered to be in the abstract oneness of ahadiyah, is not quite the same as the utterly absolute oneness of the previously mentioned ahadiyah mutlaqah. Okay, so ahadiyah, all right, even though it is still considered to be in the abstract oneness of ahadiyah, so it's still at the level of ahadiyah, oneness. It's not quite the same as utterly absolute oneness that is previously mentioned, ahadiyah mutlaqah. All right, this absolute oneness that is the ultimate reality at the level of, at the degree or level of absolute oneness. This is because it is in the second aspect already pregnant, this aspect of ahadiyah, with infinite possibilities of determinations. It's pregnant. All right, it's a good metaphor, right? Pregnant, not yet delivered, not yet zahir, the fetus. All right, to as newly born. All right, this is because it's in this second aspect already pregnant, not manifest. If you look at from the human and physical point of view, all right, it's the woman is pregnant. But of course, now with technology, you know, they can, what do they call, scan? All right, and even at after several months, they can determine, they can see, not determine, they can see the gender, the sex of the child. All right. So you see, with technology, certain metaphors are not so concise, right? So here it says here, with infinite, this pregnant stage, all right, with infinite possibilities of determinations in various unlimited forms. Already determination, but unlimited. We don't know. What's the limit? How many? What forms? But possibilities. They are possible. We know they are possible. They are possible determinations, but infinite and unlimited forms. Later, all right, Prof will explain what does this mean. Okay. Now, this later aspect, sorry, latter, not later. Very wrong of me to say later, because Prof, it is, there's no time involved. Later is earlier, later, right? Prior, posterior, or prior, before, after. There is time, the element of time is involved. All right, here, I think latter, meaning, you can say later, but here not in terms of time, in the sense of after, okay? Maybe in terms of meaning, all right, but not in terms of meaning or priority, posteriority, all right? Here, now this later aspect is itself characterized and by interiority. batiniyah, interiority and exteriority, zahir, similar to the former aspect. All right, this former aspect of interiority and exteriority. All right, so that is the ahadiyah mutlaqah. Then the ahadiyah also has these two aspects. All right, this is because it is in this second aspect, already pregnant with infinite possibilities of determinations in various unlimited forms. Now, this latter aspect, which is the ahadiyah, all right, this is my understanding, okay, of with infinite, second, already pregnant with, now this latter aspect is itself characterized by interiority and exteriority. All right, similar to the former aspect of interiority and exteriority. Okay, so when we regard this latter abstract oneness in its exterior self-revealing aspect, it is called, when we regard this latter abstract oneness in its exterior self-revealing aspect, it is called the absolute existence, al-wujud al-mutlaq. All right, when we regard this latter aspect, remember this latter aspect has two aspects, interior and exterior also. So when we regard this latter, which is the exterior aspect, all right, in its exterior self-revealing aspect, it is called absolute existence, al-wujud al-mutlaq. Its mode in this exterior aspect is still that of not being conditioned by anything whatever. So it's still not conditioned. All right, as we know, as we read, Prof says unlimited, infinite possibilities of determinations, infinite possibilities. So when you say infinite, there's no actual, is there? There's no actual in an infinite, because it's infinite. So infinite possibilities of determinations. So la bishar, at this level is also la bishar. This level of al-wujud al-mutlaq, absolute existence. Okay? It's still that of not being conditioned by anything, whatever, la bishar. Okay, as in the ultimate reality at the level of al-ama, al-zat, al-kans mafi. In the sense that it is not involved in any determination, but is ready to manifest itself in determination. It's not involved. Yet, there's no actual. But, all right, it is ready to manifest. Ready. You are prepared. All right, in the sense that if you, since a prof used the word pregnant woman, he didn't use the word woman, but perhaps, who knows, can ask him, he used the word pregnant because that in Arabic is female, feminine. It's a feminine form. That's why he used the metaphor of pregnant. All right, because at that level is the zat. So like the woman, all right, we know she can be pregnant, she can give birth. All right, but there's nothing yet. All right, in the sense she's not pregnant yet, but the possibility of pregnancy is there, right? And the possibility of having, of manifestation, all right, or determination. She can be pregnant, she can give birth, but How many children? Boys or girls? We don't know. What kinds of boys and girls? What are their personalities or their characters? We don't know. But it's ready to manifest itself in determination. That pregnant woman is ready. The fact that she's a woman, and of course, if she's healthy and all that, or she's able to conceive, all right? So, but it's ready to manifest itself in determination, all right? That is the al-wujud al-mutlaq, absolute existence. But it's ready to manifest itself in determination. This exterior aspect of the first degree of existence is the center of infinite possibilities of determination. All right, is the center. Is the source of creative activity and the principle of diversity. So infinite possibilities of determination, infinite possibilities. There's no limit, there's no number, all right. So here, how would you describe, all right, ultimate reality at that degree, all right, or level here, in the sense of that's the center or the source of creative activity and the principle of diversity. So the pregnant woman, all right, is creative because she can, of course, here we are talking about Allah Ta'ala, all right, here to make things so that we can perhaps grasp easier, because, you know, we can sense and perceive sensible things, right? So that woman, all right, she's the center of procreation at the human level. Of course, here we're talking, okay, center of creativity, of procreation, in terms of and the principle of diversity. Can have how many children is it possible to have? All right, we don't know at the level when she is a woman, all right, and when she is matured enough to have to produce, we don't know what is her potential, the potentiality of production of, and what type of children. All right, of course, in terms of the human being, you know, it will be human beings, children. All right, so I mean, that's at the level of analogy, all right, so that we can grasp it better. But also in the sense that Allah also wants us to understand things at a higher level. He shows us things at a lower level of existence. You know what is at the higher level, so that we may know, or at the invisible level we can know of things, all right, because He shows us at the visible level of things. So perhaps, all right, the analogy or the metaphor, of course all analogies will break down here, but in the sense of all right, trying to grasp, is still an analogy which is useful. Okay, so it's the principle of diversity. So the term absolute, all right, mutlaq, in the sense that we mean here, refers to a mode of pure abstraction, somewhat like the first aspect of quiddity in Ibn Sina's scheme, which he sometimes called a natural universal. All right, here I will explain to you in the next class about this concept of natural universal using in terms of quiddity. We, like we say, we will cross-reference Prof's writing in his previous, in this book, but previous pages and chapters. All right, so he said somewhat like the first aspect of quiddity, which Ibn Sina called natural universal, kulli tabi'i, except that here we are referring to existence not to quiddity, and to existence that is not something conceptual or mental, but real. All right. So later we will see, but we just follow the argument here, all right, of Prof saying that it at this level, all right, of this center of creativity, creative activity and principle of diversity, you know, this level of absolute and pure abstraction, he says, is the same as Ibn Sina's scheme, a concept of natural universal. But it's just that Ibn Sina, all right, because he used it at the conceptual or mental level. It's a mental analysis of the quiddities, all right, of the things we see outside, like the bottle, the table. But because he wanted to understand, all right, the relationship or the difference between quiddity and existence, he came up with this concept of natural universal, al-kulli at-tabi'i. So here, Prof is saying that it's the same, it's just that instead of applying to quiddity like Ibn Sina did, he says we are applying to existence, not to quiddity. And to existence that is not something conceptual or mental, but real. Okay? That is not static or passive. All right? By that, but, okay, there's a, what is it? I think it is a typo here. Or mental but real, or passive but dynamic or active, not by. Okay? I mean, it doesn't make sense if you know, by dynamic or active. I think so. My limited English grammar, I think it is a typo. All right, that is not static or passive. Static meaning stationary, passive as in inactive, but dynamic or active, moving, active. Okay, so that is what it means. Or mental but real, that's not static but dynamic or active. So when we liken this degree of absolute existence, al-wujud, al-mutlaq, to the first aspect of quiddity in Ibn Sina's scheme, we do not thereby mean that absolute existence in virtue of its absoluteness is identical with the natural universal. Okay, here, next class, all right, we'll explain about this natural universal by, like the previous time, by cross referencing or and certain amount of basic explanation to this term. So he said it's not conceptual like Ibn Sina meant, but here we mean as yet natural universal as in the reality of existence. And therefore, when you talk about the reality of existence, if its concept is static, right? When you conceptualize a thing, all right, the definition, is it dynamic? It is static. It's a concept, right? It's a form, right? It is, but here, the natural universal, with it being conceptual, it is static and passive. But here we mean by absolute existence at the level of reality, it is active and dynamic. Okay? Moving, constantly moving, and in activity. Active comes from the word act, which also the word activity comes from. Okay? So this is because, so in virtue, we do not thereby mean that absolute existence in virtue of its absoluteness is identical with the natural universal. This is because the nature of the natural universal, as understood by theologians, mutakallimun, and the philosophers generally, and whether it is applied to quiddity or to existence, is held to be something mental, having no corresponding reality in the external world. Theologians or it is something both mental as well as real and having a corresponding reality in the external world. Philosophers, in the sense that the words real and reality here refer essentially to quantities considered as dissimilar realities and not to existence. All right, read it again. Try to what do you call assimilate? What's the word? Absorb. All right, while I drink my water. Okay, that's two. So I have a bit of a sore throat. All right, so here, so you read it, you absorb it a bit, right? So it's not the same. Why? He says, and when it's applied to Kuti, this is because the nature of the natural universal as understood. All right, here, Prof also, later in this chapter, he will classify, all right, the Sufis, the philosophers, and the theologians. And he will point out the differences. The differences of their understanding or their knowledge or their, how you would say, their exposition or their explanation of the difference between quiddity and wujud, mahiyah and wujud. Okay, so here he already give us indication. If you go through the later chapters, he has diagrams and he classifies them. All right, which is, if you are a real serious philosophy, even later Kalam student, it's very important for you to know the differences, all right, in these concepts by the different schools of Muslim scholars. So here he says it's because the nature of the natural universal as understood by theologians and philosophers generally, and whether it is applied to quiddity or to existence, is held to be something mental. All right, because this concept of natural universal is something which is mental, but for the theologians, or it is something both mental and real to the philosophers. Why is that? All right, here he explains why philosophers believe this natural universal, all right, in the sense that even though Ibn Sina considered it as applying it to quiddity, but all right, here, this concept, he says, for theologians, they say this natural universal is conceptual, mental. But for philosophers, he qualified here. He said that having as well, or it is something both mental as well as real, and having a corresponding reality in the external world. All right, fil hariji. Fil hariji meaning in the outside or the external world, which he put in brackets, philosophers, in the sense that the words real and reality, hakikah, and haq, al-haq referring to Allah Ta'ala, al-haq, all right, or hakikah, reality here refer essentially to quiddities considered as dissimilar realities and not to existence. So, but the philosophers, as we said here, okay, we have 1 more minute, in the sense that for theologians, it's all mental, conceptual, this natural universal. All right, and so therefore, for them, quiddities, all right, referring to conceptual or mental. But philosophers here, he mentioned that both of them consider, all right, in the sense that real, or it is something both mental as well as real, having a corresponding reality, because quiddities, according to the philosophers, all right, are both mental and real. Why? In the sense that they consider quiddities as reality also, hakikah, real, but they are dissimilar, meaning they are different from existence. Okay, later we will explain because there's no time. What does he mean by this? Because, okay, as I mentioned, I already warned you, we go slowly. So when I explain to you the difference between quiddity and quiddity and mahiyah and wujud, I just spoke in relation to their difference, right? Existence and quiddity. Quiddity as the oneness of thing. Existence is whether it exists or it is there, present, being there or present. So, and then we say the concept of existence means that there are portions of the quiddities which our mind abstract and make them as a general abstract concept, as a general abstract concept. But the philosophers also, the fact that we can distinguish between two elements or components in one thing, or all right, that means the quiddity also has a reality, but its reality is different from existence or wujud. It's a reality, right? In the sense that it is the oneness of a thing. It is a reality. And we can go back to the where it was explained, all right, that what is creation? Verification of the creation of the activity, all right, bil haq, the tahqiq of the entity in reality and in truth. So therefore, creation has that aspect of reality. Of course, it is real. So the philosophers, all right, Prof's understanding, all right, is that the philosophers believe that quiddities also have realities, but their reality is different from existence. It is still a hakikat. When you say, why do you study philosophy? To know the reality of things. And when you talk about the reality of things, it includes the quiddity or the mahiyah. And that is what is automatically obvious to us, the quiddities. So it has a reality. But it is not wujud, it is not existence, the other aspect of the thing. Okay, so just half a minute. This one is something where you can go and find in some of the pages, and there is another aspect of this quiddity, which is when we bifurcated or when we distinguish between wujud and mahiyah, we didn't talk about the hakikat in the sense that it was just a logical differentiation in the mind. We differentiate between quiddity and wujud. But there's also this ontological aspect of the quiddity, which Prof here is alluding to or indicating, which is the ontological sense or aspect of quiddity, which is the essence, which is the hakikat of the thing. Meaning, what is the primary stuff of that thing? So that is the ontological aspect or sense of the thing. And the philosophers acknowledge that aspect. Okay, all right. Think about it. Okay, I would definitely ask you to read before the pages, read a few pages beforehand for our next class. All right, so you get used and accustomed and familiar, all right, with the topic, which it's not, we don't deal with this topic every day, and then the terminology, we get used to it, and here we have the added dimension of locating the different degrees of existence. All right, so Alhamdulillah, all right, so can recite our Surah Al-Attas individually. All right. So Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And we hope to see you, inshallah, in the next class. Bi'idhnillah. Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Doctor.
Thank you, Hubaib, for facilitating this session. And to all of you. All right. Assalamualaikum.